All right, guys, let's talk about ab exercises, okay? You know, I grew up at this very interesting point in history where when I was like in elementary school, going into like, in elementary school, maybe going into junior high school, the cholesterol myth, like killer cholesterol myth was huge. Squats were bad for your knees. You can't do squats, Sit-ups are really bad for you. You got to do crunches instead because sit-ups will hurt your back, okay, etc. So let's go ahead and talk about crunches. Crunches are the biggest waste of time that I've ever seen in my entire life, okay? And the way it is it works like this. The abdominal section is like basically like your gut. Your gut is the abdominal section, okay? Now, when you do a crunch, it's called because you just crunch down a little bit. You just flex the couple muscles in the front, the rectus abdominis, okay? That's all you do. You're just getting basically your six-pack muscle, okay? The rectus abdominis are like, the two muscles that go down here where you have like little ridges to make a six-pack, okay? Basically what you're doing is you're flexing that. That's all you're really doing, okay? Now, that's great if all you want to do is fucking look good, okay? But the fact of the matter is that is the most unnatural movement that the world has ever seen. Okay, that is the absolutely most unnatural movement the world has ever seen. What do you do aside from putting on your underoos and getting on a fucking bodybuilding stage and flexing your abs? What do you do where you only use your rectus abdominis? Nothing. Are you interested in anti-aging? Great. You're interested in anti-aging. You need to be able to stand up. Standing up means all the muscles from your head, so to speak, down to your toes, okay, need to be strengthened and working together, not in isolation, okay? It's great, like I said, if you're trying to do bodybuilding, that you just flex your abs a little bit, and that, makes you really have a flat stomach, which is great. But if you want to stand up, your whole body needs to work together, and you're not going to get that by just chasing your abs, okay? The first time I heard about this was when I was a kid. Like I said, crunches were a big thing. There was a magazine where this guy was being interviewed, and he said, he's like, he was a swimmer. That was his sport. And then he got into like, bodybuilding, kind of like, he wasn't a bodybuilder, he was more like a fitness kind of guy before men's fitness existed. But he was, a swimmer, and he said, he's like, there's a whole generation of kids these days that can't swim because they're doing crunches instead of sit-ups and leg raises, okay? Like, all they're doing is they're just doing this little, But the fact of the matter is when you move your legs to swim, you're using your hip flexors, okay? That's the reason why. People are like, well, your abs are just this little motion, and then after that, you're using your hip flexors to bring your legs up. Guess what? Everything you do brings your legs up. Everything you do involves your hip flexors, okay? Let's say here, like I'm doing a sprint, right? And this movement here, when you do a sprint to bring your leg forward, it's not a crunch. It's not, it's a movement, and it moves your leg, and your leg is moved by your hip flexors. So if you're not training your hip flexor, you're not going to be able to sprint well, okay? I do karate, okay? So like, let's say I try to throw a knee, okay? Is this a little bit, No, it's not a crunch. I'm bringing my fucking knee up, okay? I want to throw a front kick, I bring my fucking knee up. I don't just like do a little bit of okay? So you are screwing yourself if you are not training your hip flexors. You are screwing yourself if you're not training, your entire core. You're screwing yourself if you're not doing some kind of a, quote, hinge movement for your ass, your lower back, okay? I do trap bar deadlifts. I love that exercise. So what I'm basically saying is you need to train your legs to move with your upper body, okay, in unison, not in isolation. So how do you do this? What's the best way to do this? I do, like, my favorite exercise for the abs are hanging leg raises. Now, pay attention to this, because if you train your abs in isolation, like your rectus abdominis in isolation, you are not going to train your hip flexors, you're not going to train the rest of the muscles in your body. However, if you train a compound movement like hanging leg raises, you're going to train your hip flexors, etc., and also your rectus abdominis, okay? So you will still have six-pack abs if you do your, hanging leg raises, for instance, okay? but you also have the rest of your body built up. If you do just crunches, you're going to do maybe your abs a little bit, but you're not the rest of your abdominal muscles. Okay, so anyway, that's my little takeaway for today. I definitely love that exercise. I do it as a weightlifting exercise. I mean, I was able to do just like 10, 20 reps. Hanging leg raises, it got easy. So what I did is I dropped it down and I started putting on ankle weights. So these days I actually have a 10-pound ankle weight on each leg. Okay, not a 5-pound on each, like an actual 10-pound ankle weight on each leg. So I got like 20 pounds and I do straight-legged hanging leg raises. And like I said, I mean, it's really awesome for your, for your abs, but it's also really awesome for your hip flexors. Okay, so function over form. You don't want to look good, you want to perform good. If you are strong enough to perform well and you have low body fat, you're going to look good, period, end of story.